Welcome back to The People's Voice on Salam Media, your home of humanitarian journalism. My name is Shabnam Palesa Mohamed. From the international fight against Zionism, we're bringing the fight closer to home, countering Islamophobia right here in South Africa. Of course, it's not only a local phenomenon. We are seeing the rise of Islamophobia around the world with a particular agenda. The global systems of oppression that we've discussed do not stop at our borders. They manifest through the toxins of division and hatred. In South Africa, with a history of our own hard-won freedoms, Muslim communities, particularly our Palestinian solidarity activists, face increasing smear campaigns, online bigotry, and threats of securitization. This is a deliberate strategy to divide our multiracial, multi-faith solidarity movements and nation. When they can paint a just struggle for liberation as terrorist sympathizer, they aim to silence all of us. So how do we on the ground in Mzansi build a bulwark against this? How do we, in the spirit of our own anti-apartheid struggle, protect our Muslim brothers and sisters and ensure that our united front remains strong? This final segment is about practical community defense, interfaith solidarity, and honoring the profound role the South African Muslims have played in our own journey to freedom and now in the global fight for justice. To join us in conversation, I'm really happy to welcome Ayesha Bagus, who is with Mothers4Gaza, as well as the Palestine Solidarity Committee, and does a lot of work empowering women, including in the technology space. I first came across her on X and noted the quality of her countering misinformation and Islamophobia with the facts that have a little bit of spice added to it. Assalamu alaikum, Ayesha Bagus, and welcome to The People's Voice. Aisha's mic is currently off.
Apologies, wa alaikum salam. I am so happy to be here with you, Shabnam.
Wonderful. Well, it's wonderful to find an ally in the online space where more of us need to be contesting for the truth and for solidarity. So, Ayesha, big news in the last couple of days or a couple of weeks, the Kiffness has done it again. And I won't use the other word that he's being described as, but I do want to share one of his posts that led to quite a stir online. And it's quite patronizing, but you'll talk us through it once we read it and once we bring it up on screen. Your thoughts about this particular post. So the Kiffness is a South African musician, became very famous doing videos, putting together sounds of cats and children and things like that. But he has an undercurrent of what would appear to be racism and Islamophobia. So here's this post, 23rd November 2025, 288,000 views, right? And he says, South Africa's Muslim community is overwhelmingly moderate, decent, and hardworking. True salt of the earth people. Unfortunately, high-profile figures like Ibrahim Rasool, Naledi Pandor, and Imtiaz Suleiman do that community no favors with their action and their statements. And the first response that I noted to this was real MT Shabalala, who said, well, he flipped the script, didn't he? He replaced Muslim with white. And he said this exact same thing. They're overwhelmingly moderate, decent, etc. Unfortunately, profile figures like the Kiffness, Kali K, and Ernest Roots do their community no favors with their actions and their statements. There are 320 comments, 301 reposts, 1,900 likes, and 59 bookmarks of this particular post. Ayesha, talk us through this post and this thread, and what do you think it's symptomatic of? Do we have reason to be deeply concerned as South African Muslims?
Shabnam, to be honest with you, I myself got onto Twitter post 7th of October. I mainly used it for work. I do a lot of conference speaking in the tech space. And I wanted to understand what was happening. And the only place I could find information really quickly was on X. So I've been really active on X over the past 2 years. And it's been quite eye-opening for me to see the amount of racism that still exists within South Africa. I remember there was an event when I think it was Mandla Mandela was in Sea Point, and there was a Casper there, and they were spraying water on the Muslim community. there were tweets on X saying these are the same people that are going to come to clean our houses tomorrow. And so it's been quite interesting to see the narrative change and how brazen and emboldened these far right people have become because of people like the Kiffness. So what's been brewing recently online is obviously the plane with the Palestinians that has come over. There was a smear campaign against Gift of the Givers. There were two extremes in terms of the story. On the one side, there were people accusing Gift of the Givers of being, or Imtiaz Suleiman at least, of being a Mossad agent and working with Israel to ethnically cleanse Palestine, which is crazy. And then on the other side of that, there was a narrative that was saying that Imtiaz Suleiman was bringing in Palestinians to Islamify South Africa, and we want to take a Christian country and make it very Muslim. So I've been watching this play out over the past few weeks and trying to just post the truth, because that's what we're doing. We're trying to balance this extreme views and this conspiracy theories with what the actual truth is. And in terms of that particular flight of Palestinians, or the two flights of Palestinians, we now know that that was a plan by Israel to ethnically cleanse Palestine, and we are waiting for an investigation into the Department of Home Affairs to understand how this has happened. So I think that on the back of that, the Kiffness has been posting about Imtiaz Suleiman and Gift of the Givers, and then I think this post possibly took it just too far, because it's quite interesting that he went for Nando, Ibrahim Rasool, and Dr. Suleiman, who are all very outspoken about Palestine. So, yeah.
I see there's been calls to boycott his upcoming concert at Kirstenbosch, and I believe Mothers4Gaza was one of the organizations that led a picket the other day to help make that happen. What is the response from Kirstenbosch?
So they've not been giving us any definitive response. They said they were investigating it. Maybe I just want to talk a little bit about Mothers4Gaza. I created it after we disrupted the Emma Powell event, and it was specifically to counter the stereotype that people like the Kiffness want to create about Palestinian solidarity support in South Africa. So we are a very diverse group of women. It's an intergenerational group. So we've got people that fought apartheid in the group, and then we've got like really young women who are starting their journey into activism. And about a week ago, we had a Pensioners' Days on a Tuesday at Kirstenbosch. So we had a little picket there. We had a lot of senior citizens, some young people who joined, and we're trying to put a little bit of pressure on them to say that an SA institution must reflect our South African constitutional values, and someone like the Kiffness is not good for Kirstenbosch's brand. So we're noticing there is quite a bit of tick on this. There are a lot of people that are supporting it, and we will probably continue the protest because he's set to be at Kirstenbosch on the 28th of December. So we've got about a month, but the pressure is definitely on Kirstenbosch, and we're hoping that they will pull him off the program. We've asked for a meeting tomorrow, but we haven't heard anything as yet.
Excellent work there from Mothers4Gaza. Let's have a look at some of one of your responses on that post, and then a couple of other very disturbing type of posts that we're seeing in the online space, and in particular currently on X. And so let's have a look at and this is a post in which you asked him, why don't you speak up against the abuse of Palestinian Christians? And I thought that was a very important question to ask. I'm not sure if anybody else asked that same question. But why was this such an important question? You not only did you ask that question, Ayesha, you also used a tweet highlighting what happens to Christians in the Holy Land. And I quite appreciate that approach to countering, in that you use a piece of evidence to counter misinformation and bigotry. Go ahead.
Shabnam, I think that it's it's been quite interesting for me to see how much or how many of our Christian churches do not speak out about what is happening to the Christian Palestinians. We have a few faith leaders here in Cape Town who led a walk to St. George's Cathedral last year. I went to one of the events and they had so few people there. Um, and I often ask my work colleagues, are your churches speaking out about what's happening in Al Makrur? Are they speaking about how Zionists spit on Christians? Are they speaking out about how they're destroying the churches, how they're stealing land from Palestinian Christians? And it seems like the churches are not willing to engage on it. And so the community doesn't necessarily know how bad things are for the Christian community. And then you get people like the Kiffness and his followers who want to create the perception that Christians are being persecuted by Muslims in Palestine and not by Zionists. So I think it's very important for us to show the true face of Zionism. It's a settler colony. It doesn't care who it steals land from.
Absolutely. So one of the people that's also pushing back is Pumzile van Dam. I quite enjoy her flavor of countering this Islamophobia as well. Well done, Pumzile, if you're watching. But let's have a look at a couple more examples of rampant Islamophobia, which to some of us is shocking. Living in South Africa, you know, in and amongst all of our issues, in relative peace. Of course, there are instances of grotesque violence, race-based violence that we do see as well. But let's have a look at some of these posts that that we'll talk through. So the response to Kiffness saying, "I think the Muslims in South Africa aren't Islamists or jihadists; they're just chilled." Maybe that's my impression. Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully not. So there's a little bit of a barb in that tweet, playing it safe but still provoking. And this person, scientist, says, "What is a moderate Muslim? Is that like a well-meaning murderer or a friendly rapist?" But he also, or she says, Muslim equals Jew equals Catholic equals evil, right? So there's this whole hatred against not just Muslims, but everyone who is Semitic, and Muslims are Semitic too, from the Abrahamic tree. Here's another one: Western civilization does not worship a pedophile. And that's a response to you, Ayesha. And you can talk through any one of these. This is a little bit of a long one from Hanif Haider, but talking about how people were accused of leading Black people astray. And now this is about Muslim people and sounds eerily familiar. Cedric De Beer weighing in there. Steve, the KKK-ness, has something derogatory to say about Muslims. Surprise, surprise. And Ayesha, back to Ayesha, in South Africa, we see it play out every day. Xenophobia against other Africans, Black versus colored versus Muslim. Divide and rule is still active, just wearing new clothes until we see through it. We'll keep fighting each other instead of the system built to exploit us. Absolutely love that that post. And this is, of course, in reference to the recent picket. So I'll stop there for now. Can you talk us through any of these tweets and your impression of the climate in the country right now?
So Shabnam, I think that as South Africans, with our resources not being equitably distributed and our land as well, it's a place rife for conflict, right? And I think that situation is being exploited. And so we're seeing Black against colored, against Muslim, against foreigners. We're all fighting over the same little crumbs. And the people that are in power, they're laughing at us because they're walking away with everything while we're fighting over the crumbs. And so we've got to change our mindset. And I speak first and foremost to our Muslim community to say that we need to be reaching out and assisting and supporting our other communities that are oppressed in South Africa. From our side, here in Cape Town, we've got a March on Friday. We're going to support the Guguletu community against GBV. So we're trying to reach out in various spaces so that we show that we show the intersectionality of our solidarity, that we are with all oppressed people and we are against all forms of oppression. In terms of the tweets that you're seeing, especially the hateful ones, the things that people say about Islam are quite shocking. I was quite taken aback with the comments around pedophilia against yeah, I don't I can't even say these things on air.
Mm.
And I mean, there's a lot of discussions around Sayyidina Aisha, and it's very derogatory. People are not looking to engage or understand. People are not saying things in good faith, wanting the truth back. They are doing it to push a narrative online, to push a perception about Islam. And when you bring facts, when you talk about things like the sodomization that happens in the churches, or the rapes, or the American states where underage marriage is still possible right now, then people go away. It's the same way when you start talking about the Christian Palestinians, people don't engage or answer back, like you saw with the Kiffness, because when you're faced with the truth, then what do? Right? Then you go for Islamophobic rant, because you can't respond with logic. So we see some people, like the names that you mentioned. There is a wonderful community of people that think the same way like us, that believe that all people are equal and all people should live in peace and dignity. And it's so nice when you meet these people from X, because they feel like family, because every day you sort of engaging with them and fighting the same fight. Yeah, what was the other tweets that you asked about now?
So I want to talk about this one, Aisha, and then let's move to some practical tips you have for people who are in the X space or want to venture into the X space. This one's very important because what it does is highlight the South African Human Rights Commission. And here we go. So it's the last part of your tweet at the top there, basically saying you will not succeed in fanning the flames of hate against the Muslim community. And that's in response to that first Kiffness tweet that we looked at. And then Carmen, who says, overall, I think the South African Human Rights Commission, and she tags them, should really start monitoring and investigating online racism of such accounts. These online falsehoods, hate, and racism is just as damaging in person to human rights. And this one has a trail of evidence of his blatant hatred of certain groups. What is your perspective on making complaints to the Human Rights Commission? Do you think it will be successful, or do you think perhaps we need more dialogue, or do we just need to counter them with the truth wherever it may be?
I feel like we should go for all options, Shabnam, to be honest with you. I think that there is a strong play for South African minds. I feel like it's a narrative war at the moment, right? We see that Israel has become so desperate. They're paying influencers 7,000 Rand a post. We see them buying TikTok. We see them trying to influence Musk. We know that we are censored on Facebook and on Instagram. So maybe if I could just touch on that point a little bit more. I think that both Facebook and Instagram are not really spaces for intellectual dialogue, right? So already it's, family photos and vacations and those sort of things that happens there. But also we've got Zuckerberg who controls it, and you already know how to work around things. You can't do hashtag Free Palestine. Your account will be flagged. Is the word I'm looking for. Sorry. So we know that already in that space we are limited, and so the political discourse is happening on X. And maybe a couple of years ago, Twitter wasn't cool anymore and people stopped using it. But somehow Elon Musk has got it right that a lot of the narrative war happens on X. And so it is so important for our communities to be online and to be on X and to counter these narratives, and to show who we are and to show the true face of Islam. And I think that is the part for me that is so critical, is that we show people who we are as Muslims, because they are being fed nonsense all the time by these Islamophobes who really want to portray white victimhood, and are really pushing the Zionist narrative, because Islamophobia, I believe, is something that has been invented by Zionists to really push all the things that they do to Palestinians, and to dehumanize them.
Well, that is a fact. There is evidence to suggest that Benjamin Netanyahu's father actually invented the term. Was it the Judeo-Christian or Islamic terrorism, or one of those pejoratives, and just intended to be part of this information war that you accurately describe. And I get the sense, like, I'm not sure if you do, but I get the sense that there are influencers in South Africa who are also being paid. Some of them are people you never thought would take this kind of line, but also unknown people, accounts you've never heard of surfacing and now saying the most atrocious thing. So there is certainly a war for the minds of South Africans who, in the majority, stand with Palestine, Sudan, Congo, and anywhere in the world that there is oppression. So therefore, we need to up our game, Ayesha, to make sure that the truth is heard, that we share the facts, that we don't allow misinformation, division, and bigotry and chaos to actually slip through. We're not careless with that. We're not complacent. What are your tips for people who are in the X space but want to maximize their impact, or people who are considering joining us on X?
Well, firstly, if you don't have an X account, I suggest you get one. I think that it's important for you to be informed, right? And to not respond to hate with hate. I think that is just something that takes away from our credibility, because that makes us no better than them.
Right. So no
We
ad
obviously
hominem
don't want
attacks
to
then,
see people
right?
conflating. Yeah, 100%. And they're not conflating Zionism with Judaism. I mean, I work quite closely with SAJFP in Cape Town. Megan is a very good friend of mine. And so we must be careful with what we say and how we say it, because we know that the Jewish people are not a reflection of Zionism, or Zionism is not a reflection of the Jewish people. I also think you need to know what you're talking about. And so I suggest reading, and a book that has certainly opened my eyes is the Palestine Laboratory, written by Anthony Loewenstein. I think that a lot of South Africans don't know the history of how far back Zionists supported apartheid South Africa. There is evidence online of them testing weapons on South African people during the apartheid era. And so oftentimes our South Africans don't necessarily know the history and how closely the apartheid government worked with the Zionists in Israel. And so it's to really understand all the links and understand how this links to what is happening in Venezuela and Congo and Sudan and all other places where oppression is taking place. Because it's the same system. It's the same system that we've got to dismantle.
Absolutely. Well, Ayesha, what is your handle? How can people find you on X and follow and interact?
So on X, I'm Ayesha_Bagus. So it's AYESHA_BAGUS. And then on Instagram, I operate from a account called Mothers4Gaza with the letter 4. We've become quite active in Cape Town. We've got events happening almost every week. We've got a WhatsApp group of about 115 women that go out to events and that mobilize and that work with different communities. We've been working with the Congolese civil society as well. And so we're also looking to extend our chapters to Durban and Joburg. So if there is anyone that is keen to start something up there, please contact us.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ayesha Bagus. I think I pronounced it incorrectly earlier on. The founder of Mothers4Gaza, a member of the PSC, and closely involved in women empowerment in the tech space, an activist both on the ground and online. Thank you for joining us today on The People's Voice.
Thank you, Shabnam. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Well, it's been an excellent episode of The People's Voice today, right here on Salam Media. We do want to highlight one very important initiative before our closing message, and that is an initiative that's targeting Amazon, as it should be. Let's bring up the poster on screen there, Sadiq. I've got a message from Tariq Jenkins, who is also with Save Our Sacred Lands. And he's the person who highlighted this particular initiative. The truth can't be killed. Instead of Black Friday, it's Blood Friday. 28 November 2025, reclaiming the narrative, excuse me, and restoring justice. Join us for a mass leafleting action to spread awareness about Amazon's human rights abuses across the world. In our own country, in South Africa, where Amazon has usurped land that is affiliated and it is rooted in the indigenous communities of the Khoi and the San, but also, of course, in Palestine. And you see right at the top, the flags reflected there for Congo, for Palestine, and for Sudan. So this is a mass leafleting action. And there's some highlights, the Amazon and its various crimes around the world, including providing the tech engine for the genocide in Palestine through Amazon Web Services. Boycott. 3 p.m. in Cape Town, 10 a.m. in Gauteng, and supporting organizations listed there. And you can WhatsApp Julie or July on that number for more information or endorsements. Well done. This is an excellent event. Very happy to support it. We can take that poster off screen. And in our closing message for today, we've come to an end of a very powerful discussion. In segment 1, talking about why solidarity means an injury to one is an injury to all, from Palestine to Sudan to Congo, with Sheikh Ramadan Ahmed Birima and Mzi Albus Katoto from Sudan and Congo, respectively. And then we talked to Alon Mizrahi, who is an ex-Israeli ex-Zionist, about why we need to stand in solidarity against Zio-imperialism. And last but certainly not least, Ayesha Bagus, Mothers4Gaza, PSC, and in the online space, talking about countering Islamophobia using one example of the Kiffness. We have drawn the lines of global solidarity from Palestine to Sudan to the Congo. And we've named the systems of Zionism and imperialism as the core enemy of a just peace. And we've committed to fight its local manifestation, Islamophobia, right here in South Africa. The takeaway is clear. Our struggles are one. An injury to one is an injury to all. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. So thank you very much to our incredible guest today on The People's Voice, and to you, the listeners and the viewers, for being a community of conscience. This is not where the conversation ends. This is where our action begins. Educate others, organize in your spaces, and never ever let them tell you to be silent. Thank you also to our incredible team that helped to put the show together, including my co-pilot, Sadiq, Nasreen, and Ponti, of course. I'm Shabnam Palesa Mohamed for The People's Voice. Until the next time, stay conscious, stay united, and keep fighting for a liberated future. Power to the people. Assalamu alaikum.